Hello, hello, and welcome. This is Colin McGriff, also known as the Church Dropout. And once again, I have my bros with me. We're talking about men and relationships. And tonight's topic is a little bit, maybe a little touchy because tonight we're talking about what makes a man shut down in his relationship with his significant other. What makes a man shut down? So, with no further ado, I want to welcome in my brothers Pocky, my brother Chris, my brother Cam to the show with me. All right. So we're about to jump in. I want you all to get your seatbelts, buckle them in because we're about to get a little, take off and get into some things on tonight. So with that being said, we want to jump right in. We're gonna have Chris, we're gonna have Pocky, and we're gonna have Cam come in. All right. So here we go. All right, we should have my brothers in right now. Let me make sure that everyone is unmuted so we could get into the conversation. Is everybody here? Everybody, we good? Good, good.
Yes,
Sure.
sir. Hey, man.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Man, I think that we have a good one on tonight, fellas, because this is going to really, I think it's going to really help a lot of guys with understanding coming to grips with why they may shut down. I don't think that we think about why we shut down. I think we just kind of shut down, but I don't think it's like a reason, like we really put a reason why, like I shut down because of this, and we don't know what that emotion is. And a lot of times, for the most part, I think generalized is a level of respect that every man desires. And when that level of respect may be, you know,
Trial,
challenged,
challenge.
yeah,
Yeah.
when it's challenged, I think that that's when we step into um, a different mode, and you see a different type of beast come out. All right, so um, what are you guys as far as your experience, as far as some of the things that you all have been through? What do you think were some of the things that had you to shut down in your relationships? We're talking about being with a significant other, being in a relationship where you're dating or married. So what were some of the things that made you just kind of shut down? What are some of your pet peeves and the things that you don't like that possibly could make you shut down, that some other men could have the same type of experiences? Anybody can take it on. We're not gonna have one person talking tonight. We're gonna everybody jump in, man. I don't care if we talking over everybody. Let's jump in. So what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'll just start off by saying I think with most guys, you said something about respect, right? And anybody, and this is with anything, like once you feel like you're being disrespected, you either gonna shut down or you gonna pop off. Like there's only really two things that happen when you disrespect it, and I don't care whether it's by your significant other, a co-worker, somebody on the street. There's two things: either you shut down, and probably you shutting down so you don't pop off, or you gonna pop off, right? So that's usually the thing. So when I say disrespect, I mean like, and I think it's important because we're obviously talking about significant others to understand your significant other and who they are. I give y'all examples all the time in the beginning, not really knowing Sandy for who she was, but the point was is like anybody, if a voice is raised to a level that I feel like is disrespect, if certain words are said, whether that's calling people out their names or curse words or whatever, some things don't even have to be curse words. It's just like if you feel like the button's being pushed, like if I got
Right.
a problem with my weight and you calling me a
Right.
fat boy, right?
Yeah.
And that's so now that level of disrespect pushes you to either again. And for me, I understand most men. That's what I'm gonna shut down before I pop off, because if I pop
Right.
off,
I
then
may go
now,
too far.
yeah, exactly.
And it's hard. It's hard once you go there. It's hard to reel it back in. You know what I mean? So That's why a lot of times as men we do shut down, because you saving somebody from the real level of pop off, um, and we have to remember, even with the women being as strong as they are, they're still structurally made by God to
Right.
be emotional creatures. So they're emotionally driven, and your body language, your tone, your everything, kind of, it'll send them to a place where even after the waters are calm, they still a little, you know. So I think as men, we shut down for that reason too, man. Just trying to safe zone it, as Pocket say, to keep us from really popping off and doing more damage than we want to.
Mhm.
I think most men, we avoid conflict. We don't like the conflict, especially with our our significant other, especially with who you say
Right.
you love, especially with your wife, your girl. Like, you don't want to fight with them. You know what I'm saying? So you avoid conflict. A lot of times, a woman will push that envelope with you sometimes, and you have to figure out a way, because what we doing, we thinking beyond what's happening right now. We thinking later, because a lot of times we want to have a good time later. We want to be cool later, and we can get over it fast. You know what I mean? Sometimes, in some cases, some men, not all, but most men can get over things a little fast, because you're with somebody that, especially when you're in a relationship to where you're not going anywhere. You don't have choices. You're married and you're not going anywhere. A lot of times you get over it, because we're gonna be together tomorrow. It don't make no sense for me to be mad right now or for a long period of time. A lot of times women aren't the same. They may hold on to it for a while, and we have to kind of, buy flowers. We got to buy chocolate. We got to do different things. So instead of us going through all of that, a man would avoid that conflict, because we know everything that's going to follow behind the conflict right now. So a lot of times we just figure out how to be at peace. And like we were talking about this earlier, saying we kind of apologize fast. We'll say I'm sorry, and we mean it, because we don't want the conflict to carry on. So a lot of times men, we would avoid the conflict.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm with it. So, um, with us avoiding the conflict, because a lot of times, like, just for instance, me myself, when I would shut down, you know, it's still. I think I'll just say it like this. I think that sometimes with us avoiding, we sometimes never get to a resolve, right? Um, because we're trying to avoid a situation. And I know for myself, it's still something that I'm working on. I just, yeah, whatever. But it's that same thing that's going to trigger me the next time. You get what I'm saying? And I'm trying to move past it. And I think that that's just us as men. Well, some men, you just, hey, like we talked about a few weeks ago. The food is right there. Like, why don't you just go and get
Eat
the
the food.
food?
You got to tell a backstory on that. You can't just
The food is right there, man. We were talking about how women, the food is right there. We're explaining that how sometimes women want to stay in their emotion at the time, right? And the guy just wants to get to the solution. And we're like, hey man, if the solution is, if the problem is you're hungry and we have food sitting on the table, us talking about how hungry we are doesn't compute to us. It's
right.
like, just go to the food, get the food. We don't have to talk about anything. Hunger doesn't even have to cross our lips, because we
Right.
have the solution right here. But a lot
Right.
of times women want to talk about why they're hungry and what they would like to eat because they are hungry. And I'm gonna just stop right there. So,
And why we didn't eat last week?
man,
Man.
and what we want to do is just, hey, get to the solution. But a lot of times when we're talking about disrespect, I think that even for myself, it seems as if there are times that I just allow things to continue to build. Have you all ever been there where you just kind of, you're not saying anything, or you're trying to brush past it just because you don't want the big explosion, but deep down that irritation is continuing to build on you, and now one day you just kind of let the your significant other have it, and it probably wasn't even something as big to let them have it the way that you did. However, because of the suppression and you suppressing the feelings and the emotions that you just kind of unleash one day. So have you all ever been there where you're kind of suppressing those feelings, but it possibly would have been best to kind of be more outspoken? Should men be more outspoken about their emotions?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think it's funny you say. I think what happens a lot is because us as men, here we go again. The point of avoiding the confrontation is not the confrontation itself. It's what comes behind the confrontation.
Yeah. Mhm.
The roar, the uproar, the
Right.
the whole show that comes behind it, because we just want to, and it's funny you say, we will let a problem continue as long as it's not quote unquote an argument or a blowout. So the problem ain't never been fixed, but
Right.
we ain't fighting, that's fine. Which it seems like it works, but it doesn't. It is actually the worst thing you could actually do, because what you're doing is just sweeping that stuff up under that rug. And eventually there's so much dirt up under that rug that it can't. And then now it all explodes out into something crazy. When again, if and I think this just is a part of learning how to deal with conflict in relationships and communicating properly. And it's more so, again, the problem is the problem, but because we don't communicate effectively, us not communicating right is a bigger problem than actually whatever the problem was. So the problem is, hey, you're hungry, there's no food, but because we can't communicate about the food or the solution or whatever, that now the problem becomes us not being able to communicate and not whatever the problem was. So that's how I feel like a lot of stuff. Yeah, it get because we would rather the problem be there as long as we ain't like, let's just not argue about it. Let's not scream. Let's not fuss. I just want peace. Like
As
we
long as
just
it ain't affecting my peace.
there you go.
My
Long as it ain't
peace.
affecting my
Yeah,
peace,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we good.
Listen, that's good too, because I think we sweep it under the rug, but like you say, it's to avoid that. But um, you learn with life and being mature and maturing into your manhood and your relationship with your spouse, that you evolve it, man. And we need to talk about these things. I remember when I was married, man. We would get mad at each other, and we could walk past each other 4 or 5 days in a row and just not say anything outside of good morning, good night. You know what I mean? And then, you know, that's not healthy for the relationship. You have to understand that, hey man, even though I may not be able to address it right now because the way I feel right now, I am going to say something or do something that will not, you know, be good for the long haul. Let's just take a chill for a minute.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes you have that woman. Well, I want to talk about it right now. I want to talk about it right now. You're like, hey, listen, we can't we can't talk about it right now. Let's just take a minute. Let me
Right.
have a moment, and we can come back and we can address it. Because with wisdom, I've learned. Like, yeah, everybody who know me know me. I'm gonna say what I want to say, pretty much whenever, however.
You got that right.
But but with maturing, it's like, okay, I want to take a step back and really realize, like, hey, this is the person I'm with. This is the person I love. We on the same team. I don't intentionally want to hurt this person, even though what I'm saying may hurt them. I want to still deliver it in a way that they don't feel intentionally attacked. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have to address those issues. I want to say that. Like, we can't, some things we can let slide and just, all right, it is what it is. But, certain things, even if we can't address it right now, man, we have to come back at some point and, have a serious come to Jesus meeting about it. And, and that's when the dialogue is important. I think Cam said it last time that communication is key. Effective communication is key. So we want to have that effective communication because we don't want to just be talking to be talking. We want to get to the root of the problem so that, we can have a resolution.
But let me ask you this, Chris, before like
Yeah.
how often, because when you said something, I thought about it, like how often do we actually come back and revisit it? We rarely do. When when it's usually revisited, when it pop up, when the head
The,
pop back out again,
the
and,
next
and
argument.
it's the next argument. And it's true. And the reason I'm saying, I get like what you're saying is totally right. And I'm saying here while you're saying, I'm like, that's true, but like how often do we actually go back and revisit that? Like
Yeah.
this.
So for me, I make it intentional for me now because
Okay.
I am one to just I was one, let's say it like that. That I would just let it ride and ride and ride until, I'm so, excuse me, pissed off till I can't,
Mhm.
now I'm in a rage and I'm screaming and yelling and hollering versus me just kind of just
Right.
expressing to you what I genuinely felt so that because once you get to a certain, as men, we reach a certain level and a certain tone that it commands attention from everything around us,
Mhm.
and depending on your wife, it's gonna either make her do one or two things. She either gonna shut down or she gonna match that energy. Now we
Right.
both not achieving anything, but I try to do it as much as I can because I understand, like, hey, listen, I know me. I'ma shut down until it's boiling hot water and now it's spilling over the top of the pot and can't nobody put their hand over here to turn it off, move it off the burner. I'm hot till I cool down. You know what I mean? So just knowing my dynamics, I kind of, and I'm just telling on myself, but I kind of like to, simmer for a minute and then try and come back and address it. But you're right. Oh, me, nah, man, we ain't addressing it till the next argument. And then that makes it worse because now it's like, well, why you ain't say nothing?
Right. Right.
Right. So
Right.
what we got to do as men, because what Pocket was saying is true. We don't necessarily revisit it a lot of times because if you revisit something that we swept under the rug, obviously we didn't get to the solution last time. What is going to happen usually is going to start the argument all over again.
Mhm.
So one thing that I try to do now is pick my times. Like we all know when our wife is in a good mood, or girlfriend is in a good mood. And we also know how to disrespect them, and we also know how to respect them. So we have to figure out a way to find that perfect time, which is never a perfect time, right? Find that time that they're in a good mood, they're happy or whatever, and then have the conversation. And what I think men need to do is be intentional about dates, right? So plan out some dates, plan out like 4 dates ahead, right? So if something is happening, you plan out a date to where it's a quiet little, nice little vibe, and you write out everything that y'all been dealing with, going through, whatever, and then you present that and say, "Hey, sweetie, this is what I want us to talk about. You know what I mean tonight. You can prepare your list or whatever, and then you go, and it'll be fun for her because now it's like, okay, this is what's on his heart. You put some things that are on her heart as well on your list, and then y'all have that conversation in a nice setting, intimate setting, which will be easier than just trying to get your point across during the argument because we have to think of inventive ways to get to our spouses because we're a little different these years. Our moms and grandmas, they was a little different than the women we're dating nowadays because a lot of women make their own money. They it's so many, and I'm gonna be real, it's so many toys out here, a man ain't needed. You know what I mean? Like it's so much stuff that a woman can be by herself, really, but they love the companionship of a man. That's why they're with us, and that's why we're with them. So we just got to find ways to be more intentional about the conversations, and they will be able to receive the conversations because I in my marriage, whenever we do have like some intense moments, we go our separate ways, chill, and then come back and it's over. You know, a lot of times she'll apologize or I'll apologize, depending on what the situation is. So we don't allow it to linger, but that's where we are. Somebody else may need to plan that date. You may need to write a letter. Like, you got to think of different things that's going to pierce their heart, because right now their heart is shut off and they don't want to hear you. So you got to find different ways to pierce their heart.
I
And
think
Yeah.
that's
I
why
think
that's why it's important to understand your spouse's communication uh, preference, and as they say, their love language, because you can communicate to them in a way that you may do it on the date. I may have to write the letter. You know what I mean? The next man may have to make a phone call. However it's done, you know what I mean? It's just important to understand your spouse's preferred method of communication. But I wanted to ask a question though. So we talking about why we shut down. Um, do you feel that sometimes when you are trying to have that conversation and you doing your best not to make it an argument, um, but you feel like that person isn't hearing you, or that person isn't receiving what you're saying, what we do?
So one thing I live by, I say this a lot. If I love you, just think about the word love. If I unconditionally love you, whatever I'm doing is not to hurt you, harm you, or put you in any type of danger. Whenever, all the time. So my heart is pure when I come to you. My heart is pure enough to say, I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm not saying this to make us argue. I'm not doing anything to make this worse. The only thing I'm doing, maybe my approach can be a little bit better. I can change my approach, but whatever I'm saying and I'm doing, it's intentional about for a good solution at the end of this. I'm trying to make sure that we have a good heart, a good conversation, good relationship. So what I say to each other is, whenever you are saying something to me, if it's coming from love, then it's going to help me not be offended. Because right now
Okay.
you saying it wrong, but I know you love me. Does that make sense? Because I know you love me. You might be upset, you might be mad, but because I know you love me, I'm not. It's going to slow down my offense to you. Now, yeah, you need to change how you talk. You need to switch that up, but it's still going to slow me down, because now I know, well, my wife is just going through some emotions. Let me hear it differently than she's saying it, because at the end of this, she loves me, and the only thing she wants to do is make this better for us. That's if both of y'all have that same heart. So I don't know if that answered the question, but I feel like you
Okay.
both should.
Now, I mean, I just wanted to hear different perspectives, man. Now, it's no right or wrong, but that's good. I like it,
I
because
think that
love is intentional. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. I think that is like I was gonna ask Cam, because Cam, like I said last time, like he has the love scriptures written upon his heart. I don't necessarily read them like that, because but but Cam, so and that when Cam was talking about writing the letter, when Cam was talking about thinking about different approaches, um when early on in me and Leah's marriage, you know, because and she say all the time, you're a teacher and you try to talk to me like, I'm one of your students.
Oh God.
You like to
Oh,
teach, the word of God, and you like to be, and I'm not one of your students. I'm not
oh,
this. I'm not the people at the church. I'm not
let me
I ain't a
how do I
big
mute my
T.
mic? Hold on, let me mute my mic while you talk. Go ahead.
man. But I had I'm still trying my best to find that way where I'm not coming off as if I I'm trying to I'm up here and I'm looking down on you.
Right. You're not trying to belittle
It's
her.
yeah,
Right.
I'm not trying to belittle you, and it's like
Mhm.
my tone. I try to do it in a different tone, but a lot of times, and I've said this before. I said, and she has revisited how I said what I said and the approach. And a few times, she looked at it and said, you know what? I was in a mindset of thinking that you automatically thinking that you were going to come off this way.
That's what I was gonna
So
say.
so
Right.
it's
Yeah.
the preconceived idea of what I already feel about you. And
That's
a
why
lot of
that's why I said what I said. If you feel like I'm your best friend, if you feel like I'm your confidant, if you feel like I'm your safe haven, it'll be hard for you to just take offense fast. It'll be hard because you know that I love you. I know that you
right,
Right.
love me. So your tone, your approach, and this, I'm telling you, this will really help you. Like people feel like you gotta argue, you don't have to do that. Your tone and your approach can be loud and it can be like a mouse. Both of them are different tones, and the lion roaring is one way and the mouse is another way. But both of them can be mean too. Just because your tone, like, you know what I mean. So the thing is, it's the same talking, but the tones are different. But my heart is saying another thing. So listen to my heart, not my tone. Even though, again, I still need to say it in a way, because I mean, it's so many levels to it. You still need to say it in a way that is received, that is going to be received. And like Chris said, that's knowing your spouse. You know how to say stuff to your spouse, and you know what's going to tick them off. You know what I mean?
Hey, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed what you heard tonight, be sure to check us out next Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you will be able to hang out with us at the Dropouts Hangout. Be sure to download the app, and you'll be able to connect with us directly, and we want to hear from you. Thanks again.